My name is Michael. I met my wife Amanda through a friend's introduction. She was cheerful and sociable, and we immediately hit it off when we first met. As we went out for meals a few times, I started to have feelings for Amanda and began dating her. After dating for about 2 years, we both started thinking about marriage, began living together, and registered our marriage the following year. We had a grand wedding, thinking it's a once-in-a-lifetime event. Our mutual friends performed some entertaining acts, making the ceremony memorable. Married life was pure happiness. We both worked, but Amanda's job did require much overtime, so she always came home first and prepared dinner for us. "Michael, welcome home. Today's dinner is pork cutlet." Knowing that I loved meat, Amanda cooked meat dishes 3 times a week, considering a balanced diet. All of Amanda's homemade meals were delicious, and I truly felt lucky to have her as my wife. That is, until that time. It happened one day, almost 3 years into our marriage. I started to notice that something was off with Amanda. She no longer cooked dinner and waited for me, and she often went out after work, leaving me alone at home. Previously, even when I came home late from work, there would be a homemade meal on the table, but now it was mostly frozen food or supermarket dishes, which made me feel somewhat lonely. However, Amanda also worked, and I was busy at work, making it hard for us to spend time together. I told myself that she probably wanted her own time while I was working overtime, and I didn't consider her feelings enough. This went on for about 2 months, and I finally decided that I needed to change something. As my work had calmed down, I took some paid leave and planned to go to a hot spring with Amanda. When I came home, Amanda was lying on the sofa reading a fashion magazine. I hadn't heard her say welcome home recently. "Amanda, I took some time off work, the week after next. How about we go to a hot spring and relax together?" Without taking her eyes off of the magazine, Amanda replied, "No, I don't feel like it." I couldn't understand her response and was momentarily at a loss for words, because I had researched various accommodations and nearby restaurants, planning to present her with a travel plan. "Hey, I've been so busy lately that I couldn't pay attention to you, right? I thought you might be lonely without me, so I wanted us to go to the hot spring together and spend some quality time together." I thought Amanda would also be unhappy with our current situation. I wanted to create some time for us and rebuild our good relationship. However, Amanda's response didn't change. "It's totally fine the way it is now. Even if you're not around, I have things to do. Don't worry about it." In the end, her gaze remained fixed on the magazine. I couldn't figure out why Amanda would act this way, and I went to sleep that night with a heavy heart. I didn't sleep well, and the next morning I left the house with an awkward atmosphere between us. But since I couldn't focus on work, I decided to consult a coworker during lunch break. "Hey, can I talk to you for a bit? It's not really a fight, but I had this thing with my wife yesterday. Could she be cheating on you? I mean, you don't have any other clear reasons, right? I can't think of any other reason for her to suddenly become so cold." Cheating. The word echoed heavily in my mind. I never thought that this could happen to Amanda, but once a third party said that she was cheating, my suspicion grew, and my health started to deteriorate. That day, I couldn't focus on my work and decided to leave early. When I got home, I went straight to the bedroom, took off only my suit jacket without changing into my home clothes, and collapsed onto the bed. There was still some time before Amanda would come home. I decided to sleep until then, and felt a little more at ease in the cool, dimly lit room with my eyes closed. Because I hadn't slept well the night before, I quickly became drowsy and was almost half asleep when I heard the front door close, and the sound of a woman's laughter, and multiple people entering the house. I woke up and listened carefully to the noises. I could tell the voice was Amanda's. At first, I thought she had come home, but when I heard an unfamiliar male voice, my suspicion of her cheating grew. I could hear footsteps approaching the bedroom where I was, and my heart raced rapidly. No! Amanda said that while opening the bedroom door. She hadn't expected me to be there and looked surprised for a moment, but then spoke in a mocking tone. Oh, Michael, why are you here? I wasn't feeling well, so I left work early and went to bed. Weren't you supposed to be at work, Amanda? I took a paid day off and went out. Amanda said that without showing any concern for my health, and glanced at the tall man standing behind her with his arm around her shoulder. You went out. I wanted to tell the man not to touch my wife, but I felt nauseous and had a headache, so I could only say that weakly. Well, you already know, right? I'm cheating on you with this guy, and it's all your fault, so I won't apologize. Amanda stood defiantly, with her arms crossed, and said that to me. I couldn't believe she admitted to cheating so easily, and I was just confused. Stop making that face now. You've ignored me for so long. Scott treats me like a woman, and being with him heals my heart. He's sensitive to current trends since he's a company president, and he's always exciting and fun. I recognized the man's face that Amanda praised. Then it clicked when she mentioned he was a company president. President of XYZ company? The man standing there was the president of a client company I was working with. He had become famous in the industry after starting his business in his 20s. I had visited his company for business and exchanged business cards with him. Why? I asked Amanda. Like I said earlier, that's why, but I don't mind getting a divorce. Hearing the word divorce, I wanted to stop Amanda, but she tried to leave the room with Scott. Hey, are you okay with this? Just ending your marriage so easily? But Amanda said, it doesn't matter anymore, and tried to take him with her. Well, I'll make sure Amanda's happy, so don't worry. Scott flashed a refreshing smile at me and left the room with Amanda. After that, I got a divorce and received alimony, but I became mentally ill and had to take a leave of absence from work for a while. The reason for Amanda cheating was that I prioritized my job and couldn't spend time with her. Amanda started hanging out at bars alone to kill time, where she met Scott. Amanda had a personality that made it easy to get along with people she just met, so it didn't take long for her to get close to Scott. During my time off work, a colleague I had consulted about the cheating before contacted me and told me that Scott's company, which was a client, had withdrawn from New York due to a headquarters relocation. With this, even if I returned to work, there would be no chance of dealing with Scott's company, and I felt a little relieved. Several years passed since those hellish days, and I managed to recover mentally. By a twist of fate, I met a wonderful woman and decided to remarry. I had changed jobs and moved to a rural area, but it was a more comfortable town, with abundant nature compared to the city. My married life was going well, and I was living a peaceful life. But I ended up getting involved in another incident. On a day off, I was out alone, and a police officer called my name and stopped me. Of course, I had no idea I had done anything wrong, but I had a bad feeling, so I decided to go to the police station. When I arrived at the police station and was taken to a room, there was my ex-wife, Amanda, waiting for me. As soon as Amanda saw my face, she started yelling excitingly. Aha, this guy, officer, this guy, he's the stalker. He's been following me around. It's so creepy. Huh? Stalker? What are you talking about? How shameless. There's a limit to how much you can harass someone after breaking up. I couldn't digest what Amanda was saying and the situation, so I asked for an explanation. But Amanda just kept accusing me, and I couldn't see the main point of the story. Then a police officer brought in a man. It was Scott. Hey, I heard from Amanda that you've been quite persistent. It's been years since the divorce. Do you still have feelings for her? I didn't want to hear that from the person who caused the divorce. but I asked the police officer who brought Scott in to explain the situation. It turned out that Amanda had been stalked by someone for a long time, and she had reported me to the police because the stalker's appearance resembled mine. The police investigated and found out that I had recently moved to this town, so they asked me to come in for an interview. I understand the situation, but Amanda, I didn't know you guys were living in this town. Yeah, right. Who would believe a criminal's excuse? I felt anger welling up at Amanda's dismissive words, but the police officer calmed me down. Is there anyone who can prove your innocence? At the police officer's words, I decided to have someone come to the police station. A few minutes later, the person that I chose arrived, and Scott, seeing her face, cried out in astonishment. You, Elizabeth? Hi, big brother. It's been a while. That's right. When I remarried, I married Scott's sister. Scott and Amanda, who didn't know the situation, seemed to be panicking. Actually, Scott's affair with Amanda was discovered by their parents, who cut ties with him. Scott's parents were the presidents of a company that ran several businesses, and knowing that their son had hurt someone, they decided to take care of me. At first, I didn't want to face the family of her lover, but as I got to know them, I felt my heart calming down. After spending time together, I ended up falling in love and marrying Elizabeth, Scott's sister. Are you kidding me? I haven't heard anything about this. Scott yelled at us, but Elizabeth, being used to her brother, argued back. Well, I do have an obligation to inform someone who doesn't even consider us family anymore. Besides, during the time you said Michael's ex-wife was being stalked, he was actually having dinner with me at the hotel's restaurant. You should be able to find our names on the reservation list. And if you ask the sommelier who served us wine, he should be able to confirm it. I was finally cleared of all charges. As we left the police station, grateful to Elizabeth, Amanda and Scott followed us and grabbed Elizabeth's shoulder. Wait a minute. Did you really marry this guy? He failed in the city and ended up in a rural area. You'll regret it if you marry someone like him. That's right, he neglected me a lot when we were married, too. It seems these two will do anything to ruin our happiness. As Elizabeth shook off the hand on her shoulder, a luxury car pulled up in front of the police station. Seeing the person who got out of the car, Scott exclaimed, Oh, Dad? Scott's father glared at his surprised son and said, I have no reason to be called Dad by you. More importantly, it seems you have been quite rude to my daughter and son-in-law. Well, can't be helped, can it? Are you really okay with Elizabeth marrying this loser? What's with your attitude toward the heir to my company? If anyone's a loser, it's you. Your business only succeeded because of good luck, and you've been acting all high and mighty without even understanding proper management. You have no right to badmouth Michael. Yes, I had moved to this town to study as a successor of my father-in-law's business, and had changed jobs to a group company in this town. Defeated, Scott dropped his shoulders, and Amanda desperately tried to talk to him. Hey, what does this mean? You said you'd inherit the company. That's right, Scott's company is doing well, right? If we work hard to grow the company. What? You haven't heard? His company is on the verge of bankruptcy, and considering his excessive spending, he's probably in debt too, isn't he? Scott fell silent. Having been hit with the truth by his father, Elizabeth added the final blow. Big brother, you told Michael's ex-wife that you'd definitely make her happy. But it seems you're all talk, aren't you? And to believe that, I wonder how much you lack in judgment. And so, the stalking suspicion against my ex-wife was cleared. After that, Scott's company went bankrupt, and Amanda left him at the same time. On the other hand, I've been released from the curse of Amanda and Scott. and I'm living a happy life with Elizabeth.
Hey, Roz. Let's just live as a couple without having kids. What? Look, you said that if we had a kid, you couldn't take care of me, so we just shouldn't have a kid. I was astounded by my husband's reasoning. He was so self-centered, only thinking of himself. Upon hearing that I wouldn't take care of him if we had a child, he came up with this. My husband has always been a source of trouble with his behavior. And to think, when things get tough for me, he does such things? I wish I had never married. I am Roz, 27 years old, a working mother in my first year of marriage. I live with my husband Aiden, who is 2 years older. We met at a party 5 years ago. He was so kind to me, a gentleman, and I was quickly smitten. Our dates were always tailored to my preferences, and he would adjust to my pace. I made an effort to be a woman who could match him. Until then, I had moved out of my parents' house, started living alone, and aimed to be an independent woman. I thought Aiden shared the same values. But after we got married, I realized we were fundamentally different in our thinking. When we only met once a week, I couldn't see his flaws. Living together after marriage, I started to notice all the things I disliked about Aiden. He is extremely clingy. Sure, there were signs when we were dating. I thought it was just him being playful, but I never imagined that was his real personality. In the morning, he wouldn't get out of bed, whining, "Roz, wake me up!" Or during meals, he'd want me to feed him, saying, "Ah." Even on dates, he'd cling to my arm. I don't remember marrying such a clingy, baby-like man. It's gotten to the point where I wonder if it's marriage fraud. Since we married, he seems to have noticed that I've become colder, and he started asking, "Hey, Roz, do you hate me now?" It's not like that, but can you stop using that falsetto voice to be cutesy? Why? You just liked me for my looks, Roz. Occasionally, Aiden would say that and show an exaggeratedly sad face. It makes me angry to be made out to be a bad person. I thought Aiden was kind and gentlemanly on our dates. I didn't know you were a baby inside. Can't help it, can I? Because Mom said I'd be disliked if I was the same at home. I was shocked by Aiden's statement. Could it be that his whole act was crafted from his mother Flora's advice? So, you were acting all along? Yeah, I slowly showed my true self and you seemed happy, Roz. I thought you had accepted the real me. With that, I felt sorry for Aiden. Without realizing he was being genuine, I had enjoyed myself. Turns out, even the dating plans were all Flora's ideas. Thinking I was being led around by Flora, I felt a surge of anger. But I didn't want to blame Aiden for that. Realizing his true nature after marriage and treating him coldly might have been my fault. No one wants their personality to be denied. Regardless of the act, even if he has a baby-like side, Aiden is Aiden. Since I chose to marry him, I thought I should make an effort to meet his personality halfway. So I made a suggestion. Then you can be spoiled sometimes, but there are things I want you to do yourself. First, wake up on your own. Stop expecting me to help you dress. Don't cling to my arm on dates. And I want you to share the household chores. I don't understand why I have to look after you while working full-time and doing all the housework. Eh? But that's what mothers do, right? What? Even when I tried to meet him halfway, it was pointless if Aiden said things like this. It seemed he wanted to replace his mother, Flora, with me. I'm not your mother. I'll become one when we have a child, but then I won't be able to take care of you. What? No way. But if you get pregnant, you'll quit your job, right? You'll have time to look after me then. That's not how it works. When we have a child, you need to take care of yourself. If you don't like that, then that's divorce, okay? I told Aiden firmly and didn't allow for any arguments. After that, Aiden stopped acting like a baby for a while. But about a week later, he said, "Hey Roz, let's just live as a couple without having kids." What? You said you couldn't take care of me if we had a kid, right? So we just shouldn't have one. I've been thinking all this time about how Roz could take care of a child and me, but I was trapped in the fixed idea that you have to have kids when you're married. I do want kids, though. What? But I looked it up, and raising kids is hard. Even if it's hard, I think having your own child is a happy thing. No matter how difficult, I want to have kids. So? Aiden's eyes suddenly lit up. He didn't seem to be thinking of anything good. Even if it's hard, I don't want to take care of you while raising a child. When we have a child, you need to become a father, you know? Grow up, please. Aiden nodded with a face that didn't look convinced. Your father is a craftsman, right? Yes, he's always away and Mom felt lonely. Do you dislike your father? Yeah, I don't like him. He's always stern, and even though he's never home, he complains to Mom not to spoil me. We barely talked, just a bit at the wedding. I see. Then you should try even harder to be a father who can engage with his child. But my words didn't seem to reach Aiden. After that, I got a call from Flora. It looks like Aiden consulted her. You shouldn't say strange things to Aiden. Don't you feel sorry for him? I've always raised him carefully so he wouldn't be deprived of anything. Don't push your values on him. It's not like being kind to Aiden will reduce anything for you. I wanted to say that my private time would be reduced, but I held back. I didn't want to argue with Flora over something that was between me and Aiden. So I decided to ignore her and discussed our future married life with Aiden. However, Aiden seemed unwilling to change his current self, and he looked dissatisfied. Maybe it's over for us. The marriage I dreamed of. The gentlemanly and mature Aiden and me, working hard to match him, believing we could build a good home together. Was it wrong to have such ideals? One day, Aiden said with some difficulty, I'm going on a trip with my friends for the next holiday. We're going to Hawaii for 3 days and 2 nights. I wanted some distance from Aiden, so it was perfect timing. I decided to go back to my parents' house and gather my thoughts during that time. Sounds good. Yeah, I'll spread my wings a bit. You should relax too, Roz. You can't rest with me around, right? That's not true. It's lonely being alone. I'm going back to my parents. After that, Aiden was busy preparing for his trip. Packing, buying what he needed, while I felt some discomfort and slight pain in my stomach, but went on as usual. But the day before Aiden left for his trip, I collapsed from severe abdominal pain. I was in agony and couldn't move. I couldn't do anything by myself. Maybe it was lucky that I collapsed while shopping. It was a hassle for the people around me, but I was quickly taken to the hospital. Fortunately, I didn't need surgery, but I had to be hospitalized for about a week. As soon as my parents arrived, they called Aiden for me, but it was hard to get through. They tried contacting his office, but it was past working hours and no connection was made. I also called several times and left messages, but got no response. During this time, my parents went to my house to pick up some stuff for me. Aiden finally called at 9 p.m. that day. But not to my mother who had called him, he called my mobile phone instead. Hello? Your mother-in-law called. What's going on? What do you mean what's going on? I'm being hospitalized. Oh, come on. Are you just trying to get back at me because I complained to Mom about you? Using your own mother to manipulate. That's low, Roz. I don't want to hear that from you. Anyway, I'm in the hospital right now. I need you to come tomorrow. Are you testing me to see if I'll skip my trip and prioritize you? I won't fall for that. Well, rest up at your parents' place then. Wait, Aiden hung up without listening to me. Unbelievable. He just makes assumptions and treats me like I'm dishonest. If that's the case, what about Aiden, who tried to manipulate me using Flora? Besides, I really am hospitalized. Reluctantly, I sent Aiden a message with a hospital name and room number. As expected, Aiden didn't come. Calls wouldn't go through, and attempts at messaging apps just rang without answer. I can't believe he'd leave his hospitalized wife and go on a trip to Hawaii. I told my visiting parents about this. That's terrible, not believing you're in the hospital? But we don't know if he really went to Hawaii, right? Maybe you should ask his parents. I was hesitant to contact Flora. She would probably take Aiden inside, and I felt like I would be the one blamed. But I hadn't talked much to father-in-law, Glenn, and though I had his number, I wondered if I should call. Then my mom said, "Let me handle this," and dialed Glenn from my mobile phone. "Hello, this is Roz's mother. Roz is hospitalized, and we've been trying to contact Aiden, but he doesn't believe us. Moreover, we can't reach him at all today. He might have gone on a planned trip to Hawaii with his friends." After talking to Glenn for a while, my mom said, "He's coming over right now." Glenn arrived shortly after. "I'm sorry about my son. Didn't you contact my wife?" he asked. "It was hard to contact Flora because of a past incident with Aiden," I replied. Glenn's expression changed. "I can't believe Roz has been inconvenienced. My wife and son have been terribly rude. You must be anxious about the sudden hospitalization." "No, my parents are here." "In times like these, my son should be the one by your side. When I get home, I'll give him a talking to and make sure he's straightened out," Glenn said with a wry smile. He was nothing like the stern figure Aiden had described, but rather courteous and considerate. It was clear it wasn't an act, unlike Aiden's behavior. The next day, apparently scolded by Glenn, Flora came in tears. "I spoiled Aiden too much. I'm sorry. I blamed Roz one-sidedly." "It's okay, as long as you understand." I forgave Flora and we reconciled. I hoped this would lead to a better relationship between Flora and me. 4 days after I was hospitalized, if Aiden had gone to Hawaii, it was the day he would return. Glenn, who had work even on holidays, took a leave to come to my room. He was waiting for any contact from Aiden to come straight to the hospital. Checking the airport flight information, we thought he'd probably arrive around noon, so we waited for that time. But no matter how many times Glenn tried, Aiden did not answer, and I also called several times. The phone would ring, so he must have landed, but there was no sign of him picking up. Then, a call came to my mobile phone from an unknown number, not registered in my contacts. I answered the phone apprehensively. "Hello? Who is this?" This is John, Aiden's boss." "Aiden has been in your care?" "Roz, Aiden has died in an accident." I felt as if time had stopped at those words. "What? What are you saying? An accident? Where?" Aiden and I, along with 2 others, were in Hawaii. On the way back, since we were headed the same direction, we took the train together. After we got off at the nearest station and were walking back, he was hit by a car. I dropped my mobile phone in shock. Glenn picked it up and handed it back to me. "Where is my husband now?" "He's at the XX General Hospital." That hospital was near where I was currently hospitalized. I quickly hung up, explained the situation to Glenn and the nurses, and after getting permission, headed to that hospital. On the way there, I thought maybe I should have been more accepting of Aiden's clingy behavior, or that we should have talked more. I didn't hate him from the bottom of my heart, even though I had started to dislike his true nature. There were plenty of chances to start over. But now, those chances are gone forever. As Glenn drove me to the hospital, I couldn't help but cry big tears. Glenn seemed to have contacted Flora immediately as well, and she was also worried. At the hospital reception, we asked, "Where is Aiden? He's in the mortuary, isn't he?" The staff at the counter looked surprised. "Aiden? Oh, he was brought in earlier, but he was only slightly injured and could go home now. You must have been so worried hearing about the accident. Don't worry, he's probably just waiting to settle the bill." The female staff gave us a kind, reassuring smile. At that moment, I realized the previous call had been a hoax. We went to the waiting area with faces filled with anger, looking for Aiden. There was Aiden, laughing carelessly with a man who appeared to be his boss, waiting to pay. Forgetting the pain in my belly, I went up to Aiden and said, "This is a joke, right? I'm divorcing you. Don't ever show your face to me again," and left the spot. Glenn followed, warning, "You two better be ready for what's coming." Perhaps from the walking or the shock, the pain in my stomach intensified. Once back in my room, lying down, Glenn apologized to me repeatedly. "I'm sorry, it's all my and my wife's fault for such foolish behavior." "Glenn, please don't apologize anymore. Just please, let me get a divorce." "Of course, I'll make sure Aiden understands that." A while later, Aiden came to my hospital room. "Roz, you really were hospitalized?" "I sent you so many messages, and I told you on the phone. You never believed me until now." "I didn't think you'd be with Dad. When Dad called, I thought it was about you, so I checked the messages and came here." Glenn glared at Aiden with a frightening look. "What do you want now?" "To visit you." "And you think that makes what you did okay?" "What? Are you talking about what Manager John said? I asked him to do that. Since Roz lied about being hospitalized to stop me from going to Hawaii. I thought if that's the case, I'd tell a big lie too." Aiden, sweating profusely, glanced at me. All I could give him was a look of contempt. "What about the accident?" "It was true. When John was about to make that fake call to you, a car came crashing in out of nowhere. I freaked out and started crying. They took me to the hospital by ambulance, but I only had scrapes, no broken bones. They said the shock of the crash must have scared me." Your story was a lie, but my stomach pain is real. Seeing your face makes me feel sick, so could you please never appear before me again?" "Why? It's your fault for not accepting me as I am. I was just being myself. And yet, you tell me to grow up, to be a proper father if we had a child. I just wanted to be pampered forever." Then Glenn grabbed Aiden by the collar. "If that's the case, you should never have gotten married. Do you not feel any remorse for troubling Roz? You don't understand how we felt hearing you were dead. Someone like you is not my son. Get out now." After Glenn let go, a pale-faced Aiden fled the room, crying out for his mother, Flora. What a pathetic man. I was wrong to even consider accepting any part of that man's true self. Afterward, Aiden was lectured by the in-laws. It seems he even managed to anger Flora. Flora, who had never been angry with Aiden before, seemed to be very angry for the first time. Glenn had informed Flora of Aiden's death, so of course Flora arrived at the hospital after us. Like the rest of us, a female staff member informed us that his injuries were minor, but when Flora arrived, Aiden was already in my room. Understandably, Flora had called Aiden many times and searched for him. While I feel sympathy for the stress she's experienced, it's also Flora's responsibility for raising Aiden the way he is. Yet, as an adult, one should take responsibility for their actions. This also applies to Aiden's boss. After my discharge, I immediately contacted a lawyer and filed for divorce from Aiden. With the help of the in-laws, Aiden and I were officially divorced. Aiden ranted that if Roz had been more serious and conveyed her hospitalization, he would have understood, but Glenn silenced him with a shout. He remained pathetic until the end. Then I contacted Aiden's workplace through their consultation service to explain the situation. A senior manager took the call, and I explained everything to him. I don't mind him traveling with his boss, but telling a lie that someone died as harassment is not something to be taken lightly, especially as it came from a manager. Or is it part of your company culture to teach employees that such pranks are acceptable? The manager assured me they would take appropriate action. As a result, the manager was demoted to subsection chief and transferred to another department. Aiden was also demoted to a smaller branch. After the divorce, I returned to my parents' home. When I started living alone, I thought I had to be independent, so returning to the comfort of my parents' home felt reassuring. Without the need to be on guard, I could share household chores with my family and spend my free time on my hobbies. No longer being manipulated by Aiden's selfishness made me happy. One day, I might consider getting married again. Next time, I'll make sure to see the true nature of my partner before committing. For that, I want to show my true self from before marriage, without any pretense.